Behind me is a 2024 Audi Q8 e-tron. And as you'd expect for a vehicle manufactured by the four-ring brand, there is a lot to love about this all-electric utility vehicle. Now in this video, I'm going to give you an in-depth look at the Q8 e-tron's interior and technology, so let's get started. And first things first, let's talk about the cabin. You know, Audi has been a leader in interior quality for decades at this point, and the Q8 e-tron's cabin is also exceptionally nice, though I do think other automakers are starting to catch up. The Mercedes-Benz EQE interiors are very well done, and I love what Genesis is doing these days. Looking a little bit closer, we can see that the dashboard is quite angular and fairly aggressive, though it is slightly driver-focused as well, the way the center stack here is angled toward me. As for materials, no surprises, they are all of very high quality in this Audi. We've got low sheen, soft plastics used here on the door panels and elsewhere in the cabin. There's contrast color stitching. The leather in this prestige trim level is very nice. And of course, we've got a little bit of open pore wood trim here on the dashboard to sort of warm things up a little bit. Additionally, all versions of the Q8 e-tron should come standard with a large and opening glass roof. Additionally, the shifter here on the center console is of a very unique design. It has this sort of rocker here with the park button on the end, plus there's an integrated palm rest to make it easier for when you're manipulating the climate controls. So overall, this interior is gorgeous, but there are two things about it that I don't really like. Number one, these front cup holders could be improved. If you go to put a standard paper coffee cup in there, it's fine. They slide right in, but the little flippers here practically have a death grip, and if you're not careful, you'll pull the lid off or just have a very hard time removing the cup to take a sip. Not very good. On the other end of the spectrum, I like to travel with one of these insulated mugs to keep some water nice and cold, and this isn't some unusual size. I don't think I've ever had issues fitting this cup into other vehicles, but they do not work in these cup holders. This cup is just a little bit too large for them, so I think Audi could improve the beverage receptacles in this SUV. And the second thing I don't really care for in this vehicle is FSD. And no, I don't mean Tesla full self-driving. In this case, I'm referring to fingerprints, scratches, and dust, because this Audi has a lot of piano black trim, and that is usually not my favorite. The Prestige trim model comes with very comfortable, power-adjustable front bucket seats. These things are heated, ventilated, and of course, they also offer massage functionality, which is great to have on long trips. There's also a power-operated thigh extension and pneumatic air bladders for your legs and sides, so people of very different sizes can get comfortable in this Audi. Further enhancing comfort, this vehicle also comes standard with 4-zone automatic climate control, and that system also features a heat pump, which is always good to help increase an electric vehicle's range. As for tech, this cabin has a number of different screens. The primary display is touch-enabled, of course. It's 10.1 inches, and this is where you access vehicle settings or the navigation system, stuff like that. This, of course, is accompanied by an 8.6-inch panel lower on the center stack here. This is primarily, of course, the climate control system, though you can also adjust the head-up display, which you get in the Prestige trim, and you can enter text for the navigation system. Beyond these displays, we've also got Audi Virtual Cockpit, which is sort of the OG of digital instrument clusters, and I've got to say, it is as beautiful and as easy to use as it has ever been. If you drive this vehicle, you will also be interacting with the MMI Touch Response infotainment system, which I'm happy to report is super responsive and extremely intuitive. This is one of the easiest to use infotainment systems that I've run across in the business. I also really appreciate the very strong haptic feedback that this system provides. When you click on an icon, there's an audible sound, and it vibrates the screen a little bit so that it almost feels like you're clicking on a physical button, which is kind of neat. The system also supports, of course, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and since the Q8 e-tron is an EV, there are some battery electric specific functions. If I click on the charging menu, you can see we're currently at a 43% state of charge, though it is very simple to set your charging maximum from this menu. You can hit the plus or the minus, or just slide the little button here. If you only want it at 70 or 80%, you can do that, or crank it up to 100. It's also possible, if I hit the back button, go back to charging here, we can swipe over to the next menu, and you can sort of schedule charging if you want to do it from there. Additionally, like any good EV, this one supports dynamic route planning, so when you're on a long drive, you know where to stop and charge and how long to stay there. So if I pull up the voice system, get me directions to Copper Harbor, Michigan.
Searching for destinations. One moment, please.
Hit number 1 like that.
Would you like to start route guidance now?
Hit the start. With the route in the system now, I should be able to click over here and hit e-tron route planner just like that, and it should put up a list of charging stops so that we know we can make it all the way to Copper Harbor without, you know, running out of juice, which would be a very bad day. Okay, here we go. We've got recommendations for stops along the way. We can hit use.
The route is being calculated. In 100 feet, turn right, then turn left. The destination is on a restricted access street.
And here we've got our route laid out on the map. You can see that nice blue line taking us up north, and it looks like our first charging stop's going to be in roughly Holly, Michigan. But if I recenter the map, I can click over here, this little flag. That will bring up our list of charging stops required to get us up to Copper Harbor, and they're all spelled out there very nicely. Although Riverside, Toyota, Nissan, Honda, they're calling for a 495-minute stop, and I think that's like more than 8 hours of charging, so you might want to find a different place to juice up your Q8 e-tron. Additionally, it was kind of interesting. This system seemed to set up the route before adding the charging stops, which I have not seen on other systems in other electric vehicles, and I don't know if I prefer that. Also, it seemed to prompt me to add those charging stops. I don't know why it wouldn't just include those right from the get-go. Moving rearward, the Q8 e-tron isn't a huge vehicle by any stretch, but the back seat is extremely accommodating. Lots of space in all 3 dimensions. At 6 foot tall, I fit back here very nicely. These cushions are good and firm, plus they're nicely angled, including the backrest, even though it is unfortunately not adjustable. There is a fold-down armrest as well, with a little storage space underneath there, and some cup holders up front that, honestly, look like they might be a little bit better than the ones up front. Now if I lift this here, you can see we've also got some air vents, 2 at the back of the center console, 2 up here on the B pillars, because as I mentioned earlier, this vehicle also comes standard with 4-zone climate control, which you can adjust from right back here. Everybody's going to be comfortable in the Q8 e-tron. Additionally, we've got a pair of USB Type-C ports down here at the bottom of the console to keep your electronic devices fully charged. Finally, let's talk about cargo space, and starting up front, this vehicle does have a small, I'm going to call it underhood cubby because I don't think it's large enough to be considered a frunk, but you can see here this storage space is comparable in size to what you get in some of Hyundai's eGMP-based vehicles, so basically there's enough room here to perhaps stash the charging cable. And then, of course, underneath this floor, you'll see we have the tire iron jack and then air compressor for the spare tire. But really, you're not going to be hauling much in the front cubby here of the Audi Q8 e-tron. That is what the back of the vehicle is for. But let's see what's going on back here. If I pop the hatch at the push of a button, it goes up all on its own just like that, revealing a fairly generous cargo area. We've got about 28.5 cubic feet of room in the rear of the Q8 e-tron here. But of course, if I fold the second row backrests down, which I can do in 2 different ways, either from the second row with a button right here on the top of the backrest, or I can pull a lever right here in the cargo hold to drop those backrests down. When they are folded, the overall cargo capacity increases to about 56.4 cubes, which really ain't too shabby. The 2024 Audi Q8 e-tron is an undeniably impressive EV. This vehicle has a beautifully trimmed and surprisingly comfortable interior. The technology is easy to use, and the over-the-road refinement is simply incredible. Beyond that, the DC fast charging performance and range are both more than respectable, and when you add all of that up, you end up with a luxury vehicle that is an absolutely rock-solid choice. Next up, click right over here to check out my review of the Mercedes-Benz EQE 350 4MATIC, another excellent all-electric utility vehicle and a primary rival to the Audi Q8 e-tron.